Imagine finding your dream house. It's beautiful, spacious, right on the water. The price is almost too good to be true. And then you find out why it's so cheap. A year earlier, a guy murdered his entire family in that house. Shot his parents, his 2 brothers, and 2 sisters while they slept. 6 people dead. But you need a house, the price is right, and you don't believe in ghosts. So you buy it anyway. 28 days later, you flee that house in the middle of the night with just the clothes on your back, leaving everything behind. You're so terrified, you never go back. Not for your furniture, not for your kids' toys, not for anything. You just run and never return. What happened in those 28 days? What could be so horrifying that you'd abandon your dream home and everything in it? This is the story of the Amityville Horror. And whether you think it's real or the biggest hoax in paranormal history, what happened in that house changed an entire family's life forever. Let's dive into one of the most famous and controversial hauntings of all time. November 13th, 1974. Amityville, New York, 112 Ocean Avenue. A large Dutch colonial house sitting right on the water. Beautiful place, nice neighborhood. The DeFeo family lived there. Ronald DeFeo Sr., his wife Louise, and their 5 kids. 23-year-old Ronald Jr., called Butch, 18-year-old Dawn, 13-year-old Allison, 12-year-old Mark, and 9-year-old John. Around 3:15 in the morning, Butch DeFeo woke up, grabbed a .35 caliber rifle, and went room to room, systematically shooting his entire family while they slept. He started with his parents, then moved to his siblings. 6 people, all shot in their beds. When police arrived, they found all the victims lying face down. None of them had tried to run or fight back. The gunshots should have woken everyone up, but somehow they all stayed in their beds and were killed without any sign of struggle. Butch's story kept changing. First, he claimed a mob hitman did it. Then he said he heard voices telling him to kill them. Eventually, he was convicted and sentenced to 6 consecutive life sentences. He died in prison in 2021. But the murders left a dark stain on that house, a stain that some say never went away. 13 months later, in December 1975, the house went up for sale. The price had been slashed dramatically because, well, 6 people had been murdered there. That's when George and Kathy Lutz saw it. George was 28, Kathy was 30, and she had 3 kids from a previous marriage. Daniel, 9, Christopher, 7, and Missy, 5. They needed a big house and couldn't afford much. Despite knowing the history, they bought it for $80,000, which was incredibly cheap for a waterfront property that size. They moved in on December 18th, 1975. They even had a priest come bless the house before they moved in. Father Ralph Pecoraro came to perform the blessing. And this is where things get weird. According to the Lutzes, and later confirmed by Father Pecoraro himself, when he was blessing one of the bedrooms upstairs, he heard a deep male voice say, "Get out!" He felt a sudden slap across his face, even though nobody was there. He developed blisters on his hands that doctors couldn't explain. He told the Lutzes to stay out of that room. It was the room where the 2 DeFeo boys had been killed. The Lutzes moved in anyway. What happened over the next 28 days, according to them, was absolute hell. It started small. George became obsessed with the fireplace. He'd wake up at 3:15 a.m. every single night, the exact time the DeFeo murders happened, and couldn't go back to sleep. He'd go downstairs and stare at the fireplace for hours. He started sleeping less and less, becoming irritable and distant. Kathy noticed personality changes in him almost immediately. Then the cold spots started. Certain rooms in the house were freezing no matter how high they turned up the heat. The sewing room, which had been Mark and John DeFeo's bedroom, was always ice cold. Kathy would go in there and see her breath, even with the heat blasting. The windows in that room would open on their own. She'd close them and lock them, and they'd be open again within hours. Swarms of flies appeared in the house despite it being the middle of winter. Hundreds of flies, concentrated in certain rooms, especially that sewing room. They'd kill them, clean them up, and the next day there'd be hundreds more. In winter, when there shouldn't be any flies. The Lutz's daughter Missy, who was 5, started talking about her new friend Jody. She said Jody was a pig, a giant pig with glowing red eyes who lived in her closet and only came out at night. At first, George and Kathy thought it was an imaginary friend, but Missy's descriptions were too detailed, too consistent. She'd have conversations with Jody. She'd wake up terrified, saying Jody was scaring her. George went to check on her one night and saw glowing red eyes staring at him from the window outside her room. They were on the 2nd floor. Nothing should have been at that window. Green slime oozed from the walls and ceilings. Kathy would clean it up and it would appear again. Thick, green, gelatinous substance dripping down the walls. It smelled like rot and decay. They couldn't figure out where it was coming from or what it was. Doors would slam on their own. Heavy doors that took effort to close would slam shut with tremendous force, shaking the walls. Kitchen cabinets would fly open, dishes would shatter. They'd hear marching band music playing in the middle of the night when all the radios and TVs were off. Kathy started having nightmares. Every night, the same nightmare. She'd dream about the DeFeo murders, seeing them happen in vivid detail. She'd wake up screaming. She started to levitate in her sleep, according to George. He claimed he'd wake up and see her floating above the bed. One time he said he saw her transform into an old woman, aged 90 years, wrinkled and decayed, then change back. George found a hidden room in the basement. It was painted completely red. The walls, floor, ceiling, all red. It wasn't on any blueprints or building plans. It was just there, hidden behind shelving. The family dog would go crazy near that room, barking and snarling at it, refusing to go near it. When George investigated, he felt overwhelming evil emanating from that space. He said it radiated cold and made him physically ill to be near it. The house started to smell, a horrible stench of rot and decay that would appear and disappear. Rooms would suddenly reek of death, then smell normal again minutes later. They couldn't find the source. They cleaned everything, but the smell kept coming back. George's personality completely changed. He became angry, violent. He'd never been an angry person before, but now he'd rage at his family over nothing. He stopped caring about his appearance, stopped showering, stopped going to work. His business started failing because he couldn't focus on anything except that house. He became obsessed with chopping wood for the fireplace, spending hours outside in the freezing cold just chopping wood, even though they had plenty. Kathy found hoof prints in the snow outside. Large cloven hoof prints that started at the edge of their property and walked right up to the house, then just stopped. No prints leading away. Whatever made them had walked to the house and either went inside or vanished. Things got physical. George was pushed down the stairs by an invisible force. Kathy was grabbed in the kitchen and felt hands around her throat choking her. But nobody was there. The kids started getting hurt. Unexplained bruises and scratches would appear on them overnight. The toilets turned black. The water in every toilet in the house turned pitch black and smelled like sewage. But the plumbers they called couldn't find anything wrong with the water or the pipes. They'd flush and the water would come back clear, then turn black again hours later. 28 days after moving in, on January 14th, 1976, the Lutzes fled. They packed nothing. They grabbed their kids and their dog and ran out of the house in the middle of the night and never went back. They stayed with Kathy's mother and refused to return, even for their belongings. Everything they owned was still in that house. Furniture, clothes, toys, photos, everything. They abandoned it all. They went to the media. They told their story to anyone who would listen. In 1977, a book called The Amityville Horror was published, written by Jay Anson based on the Lutzes' account. It became a massive bestseller. In 1979, a movie came out that terrified an entire generation. The Amityville Horror became a cultural phenomenon. But almost immediately, people started questioning the story. The skeptics came out hard. The next family who moved into 112 Ocean Avenue, the Cromartys, lived there for years and reported absolutely nothing paranormal. They said the house was completely normal. They experienced zero hauntings. William Weber, Butch DeFeo's defense attorney, claimed he and the Lutzes made the whole thing up over several bottles of wine. He said they concocted the story to make money. George and Kathy sued him for that claim, and Weber sued them back. The lawsuits went on for years. Investigators found inconsistencies in the Lutzes' story, details that changed between tellings, events that seemed exaggerated or impossible. The priest, Father Pecoraro, confirmed the voice and the slap, but couldn't verify anything else. Some of the paranormal investigators who visited the house found evidence of activity. Others found nothing. Dr. Stephen Kaplan, a paranormal investigator, called it a hoax. He said he found major contradictions and that the Lutzes refused to take lie detector tests. The Lutzes claimed they did take them and passed, but no results were ever officially released. The biggest question is this: if it was a hoax, why? The Lutzes made money from the book and movie, sure, but they also faced decades of ridicule and accusations. Their lives were never the same. They divorced in 1988, partially due to the stress from all the attention and controversy. George died in 2006, Kathy in 2004. Both maintained until their deaths that everything they said was true. Here's what we know for certain. The DeFeo murders were real. 6 people really were killed in that house. The Lutzes really did move in, and they really did leave after less than a month, abandoning all their possessions. Something happened that scared them enough to flee their dream home. Whether it was paranormal or psychological, something went very wrong in that house. Some paranormal researchers believe the house was built on land that had been used by a tribe for a sick and dying area. Others think the violent murders of the DeFeos left such negative energy that it manifested as a haunting. Skeptics think it was a combination of suggestion, stress, and the knowledge of the murders playing on the Lutzes' minds, creating a psychological spiral that felt like a haunting. The house still stands at 112 Ocean Avenue, though the address has been changed to discourage tourists. The famous quarter-moon windows have been remodeled to look different. Multiple families have lived there since the Lutzes, with no reported problems. It's just a house now. Expensive waterfront property in Long Island. But the story won't die. The Amityville Horror has spawned countless movies, books, documentaries. Most are garbage, Hollywood cash grabs that have nothing to do with the real story. But the original story, the Lutzes' 28 days in that house, remains one of the most debated cases in paranormal history. Was it real? Were George and Kathy Lutz really terrorized by demonic forces in that house? Or did they make it up for fame and money? Here's my take. I think something happened. Whether it was paranormal or psychological, something in that house affected that family. They lived through the DeFeo murders being fresh news. They knew 6 people had been killed in the rooms where they slept. That knowledge alone could create incredible psychological pressure, especially on someone prone to anxiety or suggestion. But some details are hard to explain away. The priest hearing the voice and feeling the slap. The consistency of George waking at 3:15 a.m. The red room that wasn't on any plans. Missy's descriptions of Jody. Maybe it was paranormal. Maybe it was the power of suggestion. Maybe it was a mix of both. What I do know is this. Whether you believe in ghosts or not, living in a house where 6 people were murdered is going to mess with your head. That kind of trauma doesn't just disappear. It soaks into the walls. And if you're already scared, already expecting something to happen, your mind can create experiences that feel completely real. The Amityville Horror is either one of the most legitimate hauntings ever documented or one of the most successful hoaxes in paranormal history. We'll probably never know for sure. But it's given us one hell of a story either way. What do you think? Real haunting or elaborate hoax? Let me know in the comments. And hey, if you ever get a chance to buy a house where a family was murdered for a suspiciously low price, maybe just keep looking. Thanks for watching. Sweet dreams. And maybe don't wake up at 3:15 a.m.